Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel, and for those of you who are new, welcome. So today in this video, I basically just wanted to talk about my top 6 reasons for why I think Boston is the best college town. And for those of you who might not know me, I'm a student at Boston University, but a lot of what I say will also translate to the other schools in the area like BC, MIT, Harvard, Tufts, Emerson, Wellesley, Northeastern, etc. Before I get started, I just want to say that I'll be sure to put timestamps in the description box below. And also, as a quick disclaimer, this is obviously just my personal opinion based on my experiences living in the city. I'm sure that other cities in the country have a lot of great merits and a million and one things that make them amazing too, but I just really love Boston, so that's what I'll be sharing with you today. To start off, I think that Boston is the ideal city to go to college because of its size and layout. It's not actually very big by city standards, and the city just feels really welcoming and open even as you get closer to the downtown area. I just felt like Boston felt very welcoming, very friendly, and it just felt like a city where I could make a home. It didn't feel as overwhelming as New York, and ultimately that's what made me fall in love with Boston. Not only does Boston feel a lot friendlier, but it's actually a lot cleaner too, and there's just gorgeous historical areas and colonial architecture everywhere you go. Even on BU's campus, there's actually gorgeous brownstone buildings where students can live in their own dorms or their apartments, and all of these things I talked about, just the size and the layout of the city, I think these are all reasons why Boston is actually the perfect place for someone to live if it's their first city. So again, if you're from kind of a smaller town or more rural area, but you've always wanted to live in the city, I think Boston is a great starting place. Next, since Boston is a literal college town, you get to meet people from all of the other schools in the area. Like I mentioned at the beginning of this video, there are just so many schools in the city, which means you can make friends and make connections with students all over Boston and not just the ones that go to your own campus. And I'm not just talking about meeting people socially, which is so cool, but I'm also talking about things like professional networking, and that way you can collaborate with other students in other schools for things like research and projects. For example, just this last semester, I was part of a short story club that someone held, and it was a lot of fun. I got to meet girls from other nearby schools like Boston College, and I also recently collaborated with a YouTuber, Caitlin Curtis, who goes to Emerson. So like I said, there's just so many great people in the area that you can collaborate with and meet, and so that is definitely a big plus of living in Boston. In Boston, there's literally so much to do, and there really is something for everyone regardless of what you're interested in. And before you go telling me, Mira, that's every single city, there's always stuff to do. Okay, that's true, but I think in Boston, the key word here is affordable. There's just a lot of things that are affordable for college students to experience. I think it really is a best of both worlds situation because on one hand, you get to experience that taste of fun city life where there's a million things to do, but on the other hand, because Boston is a city that has such a large population of college students, people are really mindful about making things affordable for students and also planning events geared toward young people. To start off with some fun examples, with my college ID, I've gotten free admission to amazing museums in the city like the Museum of Fine Arts, the Institute of Contemporary Art, where I actually stumbled upon Kevin Hart filming a movie once, which was pretty cool, and things like the Isabel Stewart Gardner Museum. There's also things like the Museum of Science, which you normally don't get just a free pass to go whenever you want, but they do have college night once a year where if you bring your student ID, you can get into the museum for free, which is a lot of fun. If you're more of a music person, let's say, there are also amazing music venues in the city. For example, my freshman year, my roommates and I actually got to go see Conan Gray at the House of Blues, which was a literal 7-minute walk from my dorm. I'm not even exaggerating, it was so close. And also through some of my classes at BU, I've gotten to go see the Boston Ballet for free a couple of times, and once I even got $5 tickets to go see a production of Mean Girls at the Boston Opera House, which is a really, really cool experience. Adding on to that, if maybe museums and music just aren't your thing, there's also student discounts like $9 tickets to go see games at Fenway Park. If you're into hiking, you can maybe stray a little bit further from the city. There are some great places to hike in Massachusetts. Or if you want to stay closer to campus, you can always go kayaking on the Charles River, which is something I've seen a lot of students do. Basically, I'm just saying that the list is endless, and I'm also just realizing that I didn't even remember to mention the shopping, the restaurants, the cafes, but I promise it's all there and it's fantastic. Public transportation in Boston is so easy to navigate, and it's actually fairly clean too. You can really get anywhere you need to in the city by taking the train, which we call the T. And of course, if you're someone who grew up maybe not having access to public transportation, you might be a little nervous to start at first, but Once you get used to it, it's really easy to become a pro. Like, it's really not that scary. I love public transportation in Boston. Not only that, but if you want to get out of the city for a bit, we also have commuter rails that'll take you to places like Revere if you want to hit the beach, Lexington if you want to go hiking like I mentioned earlier, and also a place like Salem, which you can go for the classic Halloween trip. It's a lot of fun and college students are really, really excited to go every year. I also want to quickly add that Boston is an extremely walkable city. I know I mentioned the T just now, but honestly, most of the time I prefer walking by foot to wherever I have to go than taking the train because Boston is just so pretty. It's so nice, and I love exploring the architecture and just all Boston has to offer on foot. And I feel like that's something that you kind of miss out on if you take the train all the time. So if you come to Boston, I promise you will actually really like walking around the city. It's a great experience and it's cheap because it's free. Some of my favorite memories from Boston are actually the ones where I'm just walking. Those memories just consist of things like window shopping with my friends on Newberry Street or walking all the way to Boston Commons with my roommates, things like that. You know, I just feel like looking back, you really appreciate the simple stuff. And I think walking is just such a good way to kind of unwind and take your time with your friends and just explore Boston that way. I have to say that the East Coast is very fast-paced, go-getter vibes. I just think that Boston has loads of opportunities for things like internships and jobs, and all of the students that I've met here are genuinely so passionate about what they do and they are very, very goal-driven. I also think that if you're a student who's looking to go into the medical sciences, to be pre-med, I think Boston is a great place for that because it really is a medical hub and you also get access to places like the Boston Medical Center. If you're someone who is incredibly driven and is always taking initiative with the things that they do, I think that Boston is the perfect place to go to college. I will say that occasionally that go-getter energy can get kind of overwhelming, but at the same time, I just feel like I'm always really inspired by how hardworking my peers are and how passionate my friends are about what they do, so it really motivates me to get up and get working. Alright guys, so it is time to get super real with you. If you have clicked on this video, I'm sure you already know that Boston has a reputation for being super windy and having really harsh winters, and I have to say that that is completely true. I can't lie about it. Boston can have pretty tough winters, but before you go and knock Boston off of your list, I just want to say that if you can kind of stick it out for those cold winters, for those windy days, it is so worth it to be in the city because the spring season and the fall season are absolutely gorgeous. You get to see the trees changing color against these beautiful historic old buildings and brownstones, and in the spring there's flowers in bloom. People are kayaking on the river like I said earlier, they're having picnics, so there's just a lot of good vibes, and again, if you can make it through that winter, I think it is so worth it to be in the city for the other seasons. And although Boston is a city, I actually think it has some of the best green spaces I've ever seen, and I know a lot of my friends will agree with that statement. We have the Charles River Esplanade, we have the Boston Commons, we have the public gardens, we have various other parks, and although this technically isn't a green space, Boston Harbor is also so much fun to visit on a really nice day. There's like farmers markets nearby and stuff, so I always like to go and hang out by the water. And I grew up in a place that had a lot of really nice natural places to visit, so I was just really excited that I still got to have some semblance of that in Boston while still getting to experience that city life. Anyway, that's all I have for now. Again, this is just my personal experience with living in Boston, but I have genuinely enjoyed my time here in the city so much. It's been a really great experience. If you've gone this far, thank you so much, and if you've enjoyed the video, please make sure you like and subscribe so you can see all of my upcoming future videos, and with that, I will see you in the next one. Bye everyone!